Good afternoon. My name is Tumi Tladi, and let's continue with this series on Xamarin. I welcome you to my YouTube channel. If this video is the first video of mine that you're currently watching, I'm gonna urge you to watch my other previous videos because there's a good quality content here. Now, in our previous video number 7, we just covered preferences and preferences variables, and now we're going to cover this feature, the first feature called terms of service page. So this is the focus right now on this last session for today. Now I want you to pay attention to the app as I start, and then it's going to skip the terms of service page. So let's do that. I'm launching it. And please note that this app is not running from Visual Studio. It's coming directly from Google Play Store. There we go. It's checking for the updates. We'll do that on this video called version update. Did you see that it skipped? It skipped this terms of service page. It showed the busy indicator. It triggered version updates. It found nothing. It went to startup page. So it skipped this part. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go to the app info. There we go. And what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go to storage. So as you can see, there is a lot. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clean not only the cache, but the data also. So it's gonna remove everything. All of this application data will be deleted permanently. This includes all files, settings. Do you see that? Settings, accounts, and databases. It's okay. Cool. So now the app is, come on. So I'm gonna open in a second. Cool. But I wanna show you what it did. So let's go to Visual Studio. Go to Shared Project. Let's go again to app.xaml, but the code behind. Okay, so this is where the focus is going to be at, right? So this line, when it executes, where we are checking has the user accepted terms of service from the preferences, it's going to get based on the key. Now the default value is going to be false, and this is what we just did. Why? Because we just cleared and cleaned this storage or the settings for this application, like as you saw. Right? So now it won't find anything, and then this will be the default value if you could not find anything that we can work with. So it can either be true or false. So in this case, it's going to be false. So mean that if not user accepted terms of service, it's going to now go to terms of service page. So this line will execute now as I fire the app again. So I'm going to open directly from here. Open, splash screen. So now everything is cleared. There is no history, there's nothing. And this is very important. So when you download my app from Google Play Store, it's going to ask you now for, do you want to record audio? Let's just say yes. So this is what I call terms of service. It's a very, very interesting feature. I learned a lot about this. Now, this is the page, but I will show you everything that goes into this page, right? In fact, let's not do this, but let me show you based on MVVM how everything has been put together. So we know that this is how it gets to be treated as the main page, right? It doesn't go anywhere because you have to accept the terms of service. So let's start. So I'm gonna start with, do we have the models? No, yes, we do have the model. There we go. Terms of service model. The name of the feature is terms of service. But obviously, this is part of MVVM, so there has to be a model. So why do we need a model? Good question. So let's see how many properties do we have. Look at that. This is very interesting. So we do have 5 properties. Number 1, we have row height. It's of type double. We have a Boolean. We have startup is visible of type Boolean, and then we have slider of type string, and this is a slider. We have title of type string. I believe this is the title. Yes, this is the title. And then we have the description of type string, and this will be the description. Doesn't make sense. So we have the row height, startup if it's visible or not, slider, it's going to slide now, and then we have the title and we have the description. So this is the model. And then, so let's close the models. Do we have accompanying view model? Yes, we do have, not you, view model. There we go. Do you see that terms of service view model? We should talk about the base view model class. Yeah, because every view model in here inherits from class called base view model. Yes, in our next video, before we go further, we should talk about this class before we even do base indicator. So let's schedule it to be base view model. So here, instead of this, we're gonna now say we should focus on, not you, come on, base view model. It's a big class, and I believe it plays a critical role, so we need to cover this. And this will be the video number 10, and this will be 11, this will be 12, this will be 13, as we continue to update our roadmap. Okay, so we do have, I'm not going to show this, but it inherits from base view model. All my view models in here, they inherit from this base view model, right? So we have global variables. Now you need to pay attention to this feature. So we have a private double row height, it's 120. And then we have a private read-only string array of sliders. And then we have 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, and 4 of 4. And this is what you see here. There we go. Where it shows 1 of 4 on slider number 1. I hope you see that. And then we have the titles. So let me just move this guy a bit. So we have private read-only string array of titles, and then we have introduction. This is what you see here, introduction. Oh, this is a title. Okay, so this is a title, introduction, and this will be a description. And then the second slide, page 2 or 2 or 4, we are going to have customer and visitors. You'll see that in a second or in a couple of minutes. Business or store owners. Finally, we're going to have wrapping up. Good. And then what do we have? We have descriptions. And then we have the descriptions. Again, the description is of type string array, where we have both the parties, blah, 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 blah. It's what you see here. That's a description. So these are the global variables. They're nicely developed. And then we have the properties. Now, this property is critical. Now, it has a backing field. Why it's important? Because we need to make use of on-property changed from base view model, right? So that's why we have a backing property. So now we're gonna say this is gonna be of type a list of terms of service model. Remember that model? Yes. So this is what we're gonna have, terms of service model. So that's the first property. The second property is gonna be of startup if it's visible. By default, it's false, right? And it's also gonna have on property change method. And then we have the commands. We should talk about commands. Also, before moving further, we should talk about commands. I'll cover base view model, but we should talk about commands thereafter, because this is very important. Xamarin commands, and we'll talk about WPF commands and journal commands. When you click the button, what happens? So here we should talk about view number 10, which is going to be commands. I'm going to make a short video on that one, on that topic. Let's save it. So these are the commands. What happens when you click the button? You will see the button in a second on the last slider. So public command, terms of service command. This is very important to know how you write the command in Xamarin. It's not the same way you write it in WPF. I'll show how you write that in WPF, and I'll show the difference. What is Xamarin? It's helping to get rid of. Okay. And then, by the way, the button, when you click the button in Android using a crappy IDE, Android Studio, it's complicated. Set, on click, all of that. It's too much. It's way too much. So here we have terms of service command. Now, a thumb rule in Xamarin. If it's going to be a command, you need to append command at the end of the command name, or should I say the property name. but it's of type command. And then it's going to return a new command. It's asynchronous command. And this is very, very important. It's asynchronous command. It's going to await this method. We'll come to this method. And then the second one we're going to have is going to be startup command. So also it's going to be asynchronous awaiting startup method. So this is the basic stuff. And then I'm going to go to the constructor. Now on the constructor, now all my view models, they do two things, most of them. But I know all of them, they have what we call App Center Analytics. Remember that App Center Analytics? Of course, from our previous video when we covered app.xaml. So there's a method called App Center Analytics, this method where we're getting information about the device. So we're also doing that App Center Analytics, where this time we are tracking information about where did you launch. So which device launched. You see this device, it launched terms of service page at what time, and I can get the count of how many times you did that. So this means knowing how many people actually got to terms of service. So all of my view models, they do have this method, App Center Analytics. So we are done. And then the second method in the constructor is show info. Now I do this because it's gonna instantly show information. So the name of the method is called show info. Where is it? There we go. So now this is show info. It's critical. What it does is that we initialize, remember that property? Yes, now we need to initialize it because it's a list and in a constructor. But I don't want to do it messy in a sense that the constructor now is going to be filthy, with too many stuff. I want the constructor to be doing one thing only. Call this method and that's it. So when we show the method, where we show the information, this is where we get to initialize that list of terms of service model. And what we do, we call another method called check device height. So let's go to that method. It's a helper method, I believe. So now this is very critical. This was a pain, and I'll show why. Let me show the app. Do you see this? We are also using Xamarin. We are continuing to use Xamarin Essential to get information about the device screen. So this is what I'm saying, main display info, sorry. So this will give you the main screen display information. So we're gonna put it there. And we're gonna say, now this is gonna be the height. Get us out of that main display info, the height. Put the height there. If the height of the screen, this is my phone, from here all the way here, that's my screen. Now, if the height is greater than 1500, the row height should be 250. Else if, you see, I planned this thing, I tested using different devices. I tested it to say eventually it's going to be 120 because I think I fall in 250. This is the entire row height. I'll just have to trace where it's being utilized, this row height. But this is where we check the device info. It's very, very important. Cool. What's next? And then after that, we're going to say for. We're going to use a for loop. And it's very interesting to use. It's very important to use for loop because we have a four sliders, right? 1 of 4 currently, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, and there's going to be 4 of 4, right? So we have to use for each to say if X it's on number 3. Now you should toggle startup is visible true. Startup it's visible true, right? You will get to know what startup is in a second. And I'm gonna say if only now the current iteration it's number 3, where we're still incrementing it, make sure that startup is visible is true. And then we're gonna say var terms of service, we're building that model. We're gonna say the row height is gonna go there, and then startup it's visible, we just toggle it to be true, or it will continue to be false. So whatever the value is gonna be there, and then the slider, because it's of type string, we are passing the current value of the slider, of which is it 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, or 4 of 4. The title is the introduction, as we can see here. Is it the introduction? If it's introduction, add it there, and then the description and so forth. And then we are continue to add that in the list. Because remember this guy, it's a list. If I do this, remember this guy, it's a list. And that's it. So this is show info. We are done with this method. Now let's come to the buttons. But let's do this. Let me show you certain things. If I slide, do you see me sliding? Now I'm on page 204. The title has changed, and then the what you call the description has changed. Do you see that? And now the slider has changed 3 or 4, title, also description. Finally, I want to come to that, but not now. Cool, let's go back to the first one. There we go. So when you click terms of service, so terms of service, there's a link. You see it says view terms of service. I'm going to click it in a second. It's an action, it's a button. So what it's going to do is that it's going to use, again, Xamarin Essentials, one of the APIs, its browser. So it provides, it provides a way to display a web page inside an app, and we're going to see that now in a second. But I also have a global variables where there's a terms of service link, and then we are building new browser launch options. You're saying the launch mode, it should use a system preferred, and the title mode should show. We're about to do that in a second. In fact, let's do that. So if I click this terms of service on this slider or this slider or this slider, there isn't one or there is one there. It doesn't matter. But let's click this. I click. Do you see what it does? It opens the browser. It shows the title, and this is what we call the title, and it's using the system preferred, yes. And then this is from my actual website. As you can see, this is my own website where it shows the terms of service. Hey, did you read this? Did you view all of this? So it's coming from my actual website. Let me just hide that. And by the way, my website, it's responsive. As you can see, that's my footer. It's it's beautiful. And as you can see, this is my my menu. I can go to home. I mean, we know this. I've been showing this thing multiple times. So this is my website. But the cool thing is that it's launching within the app. I can quickly close it. So this was the button. It's a link, but we're treating it as a command. And we are opening using browser.open async. It's an asynchronous. Now we are done with terms of service. And then we are left with the startup. So again, let's show this guy going to the last page. So there is this button called I agree to terms of service. This is where now the button name is called startup. So you're going to go to a startup, right? Cool. So this is where we wrap up everything. Cool. And by the way, I should read these things. Both the parties, business owners and customers, have their own set of concerns in regards to the flow of the process to make sure the other party is satisfied whilst using this platform. For customers and visitors, I agree to read carefully, observe the prices, know the location, and upload the correct document while providing clear and correct information for my request. And this will be for business and store owners. I agree to process the customer's request on time and to use the information provided about the request in order to satisfy the person that requires my services. Finally, when both parties, if you do understand the terms of service set out for this platform and are willing to comply with them, you can then go ahead and proceed. So that's my terms of service. But do you see that there is it's a slide, obviously, but there is an image behind at the back. I'll talk about the image. So basically what it does is that when you click the button, it's going to, again, use the preferences from Xamarin Essential. Again, go into my preference variables. You see that user accepted terms of service. It's only now going to be toggled to be true. Remember this guy? Yes, this is where we remember it. Let's go all the way up. This is where we are getting. So by default, it's going to be false. And then we are setting the value to insist to be false. Only then that's how it got here. But now, if you click that button, where's the view model? If you click that button, it's going to be true. And then what you're going to do, await. So we're going to use that application .current. So we're going to go to the main page, and then we're going to navigate pushing async to startup screen page. So that's what happens when you click this this button on slider number 4. There we go. So this is the view model in a nutshell. I think we covered everything, right? So let's see how the view come into play. So I'm gonna close this guy. Let's go to the views. Now it lives on the content pages. Here, there we go. Terms of service page. It might take a while to open up, and it didn't. Oh, I love my laptop. My laptop is very fast. Oh, I love it. Okay, cool. But let's see if is there anything in the code behind. There isn't anything. And by the way I program, I removed unnecessary using statements, and also I removed this empty line always at the end. Another thing that's worth mentioning about Xamarin, how it's being architectured. Do you see this Xaml Compilation? In fact, if we go to assembly.info class, you will see this. So this guy, it's gonna look for all the XAML. You see this attribute that controls whether XAML will be compiled at the build time or runtime. By default, XAML compilation at the build time is turned off. So this is what we are saying. Listen, now this guy, it should now compile, right? So when you look at the page, the code behind of it, we are saying before we do anything at the build time, it should, why I say it's false, it's turned off. Enable build time compilation by specifying the compile option. Check the XAML at build time, yes. Reduces loading time and produces a smaller assembly or application. So you need to have this attribute on all your pages. As you can see, this page inherits from content page, right? Cool. And then we just initialize using the constructor, the components, and this will be the components. And this is now welcome to Xamarin. How I program clean. I program clean. We are almost done. I just want to make sure that I'm comfortable. Charge the laptop. There we go. So what we are doing is that we are looking at this page in detail. So let me go back to the very first slider. There we go. So these are the namespaces. These. And then one of them is it's using, well, we have to drag in the view model. This is how we link the view with the view model to say, listen, I'm going to give you the key, which is of type of view model, and then just go to the view models. And then when I use the content page.binding context, I'm saying view model, it will automatically know that, listen, there is a terms of service view model. So we are linking the page and the view model, or should I say the view and the view model. This is how you link it. And then these two are from SyncFusion, the controls. So the parallax view is this guy. This is a parallax view, and then the entire thing that slides. Now, yes, this thing that slides. This is a parallax view. Do you see this? If I leave it, you see what it does? Do you see that? That's a parallax view. It's a control from SyncFusion. So I have to bring it in order to make use of it. And now we also have the rotate. So this guy at the bottom, it's rotating from one slide to another. Okay. And then lastly, we have what we call, now there's a content view. Show connectivity. As you can see, it's coming from content views. I will do the content views at a later stage, not now. As you can see, there are content views, and then this is show connectivity view. So this is show connectivity, but we'll show this in our next video. Maybe we should do this before we go further. We should schedule to do this. Connectivity view, let's see. Here. View number 11. Connectivity view. I told you that this is going to grow. This is very important. I'll show you what happens. Okay. And then what we do is that we are saying navigation page has back button false. It doesn't have the back button there. And then navigation page has navigation bar false, and we are removing the navigation bar. And then we are now building the content of the content page. And then we are using I'm using absolute layout. It's very important I use absolute layout. The padding is 0. Horizontal options, fill and expand. Vertical options, fill and expand. So we are filling both horizontally and vertically. And I'm using the stack layout. And this is where I'm going to use that show connectivity from the connectivity view. If it's visible, we'll talk about this because I'm binding it. And then you didn't see the property, but the property is coming from the base view model of this view model. Remember this, it has that, it does have this connectivity if it's visible. So, but the stack layout is the entire container, right? And I do have the grid. Now, on the stack layout, I'm using this absolute layout, the layout bounds, and then I'm saying the layout flex all, and I'm using the grid as another container. And then inside, I'm saying the vertical should fill and expand. And then this is why I start to use that parallax view here, where this is the name. It's very important you give it a name. The orientation is horizontal, as we saw. The speed 0.5, and then it has the source. So this is the speed 0.5. And I read the documentation. That's how I got this thing to work nicely. And then the source, it has to reference the rotator, which is, this is the name of the rotator. And then this is where we build the content of the Parcel view with the image. So the image, there is this what we call terms of service image. We put it behind at the back, and then the aspect is fill. The background is transparent, and then the horizontal option is fill. Vertical options is fill. So let's go and show that image. Now there's no image in the platform or in the project, shell project, but the image lives in Android. Where we go to durables. There we go, terms of service. So this is my image. I had to get this image to be like that using Photoshop, but this is where you get your image. So it knows how to get the image, but in .NET MAUI, it's very easy. You should know that. And then the next control we're gonna utilize is gonna be the rotator. It's a bit chaotic rotator. Here's the name, item source. Do you remember that list of terms of service model? Remember the list? This is where we bind the item source. And by the way, I'm using MVVM, it's bindable. Selected dot rotate, selected dot color. When you selected this, the color, you see, I'm now using that app.xaml file because this is where the application resources are being defined. So there I'm using static resource to know the key. This is the color for navigation bar. Dot border color, also navigation bar, because there's a little bit of border, but you can't see it clearly. Enable looping false, don't loop. Navigation direction horizontal. Navigation strip mode, I can do dots, but there's other options. Background color is transparent, and then navigation strip position is at the bottom. I can have it, I believe, at the top and all that. And I build a template by using data grid row space 0, and this I define the row definition. I'm not going to get into this in detail, but now we are getting inside. The very first thing that we do is that we have this stack layout. So let me scroll down. On this stack layout, we see the grid is row number 1, horizontal options in the center. I have the first label. Do you see how I program? I will always have the space. I will always make sure that it doesn't have the ending, tag for the label control. No, I don't do that unless I have to get inside like stack layout. You see stack layout, I opened and there's a closing tag of it. But when it comes to labels like this, I don't do that kind of nonsense. So I have the text to be overview. I don't know why the color is this plain. It can't be white. It should use static resource. Color from static resources, from application resources. So I need to fix this to clean it. The font size is 22, so that's overview. It's at the center. And then label, again, terms of service, this is what you see here. It's wide, 28 font size, it's bold at the center. The last one, it's called slider. It's binding to the slider. Is it 104, 204, or 304, or 404? So it's binding to it. Text color is white, font size 14, it's at the center. We are done with the first stick layout. This is a stick layout. The second stick layout. The second layout, the grid row is 2, background is transparent, there's the margin, the label is the title, where we are binding this title, and then we are using the style, you see from that application.resources, service info 2. I just have to rename that one because it's affecting this guy, but the font size means me overriding what we have there as a template for the styles. I'm saying now the size, I'm overriding whatever is in there. The size should be 25. The font activity should be bold. That's what we see here. And then this will be the description. We are binding the description property. It's still using service info, and then we are overriding the size, which is 18. The third stack layout, let me do this so I can see what's happening down here. Grid read number 4, orientation is horizontal center, where we're gonna have this. Now this is where now font awesome comes in. So this text, this key is for font awesome. We have the video schedule for that one. The size is 20, so this is the icon, right? It knows how to get this Microsoft Edge browser icon, and it's using font awesome for brands. That's a type of the font awesome. I'll cover that later on. The text color is orange, as you can see, the icon is orange, and then this is the margin. And then inside that sticky layout, I have the label, text color is orange, the margin, and I format the label text, where I can use view as a normal label, but then again I can add a span with the difference of font attributes to be bold, where it says terms of service, it's bolded. Another thing is this span dot gesture recognizer, because you can tap on it. Where I have a tap gesture recognizer, I'm binding the command. Remember that command. So this is the path binding context dot terms of service, and we did click it, and then I'm passing in the source. It knows where to get back to the page. And then lastly, we have this stack layout for the button. So let me show for the button. For this button, there we go. So that's why I said, did you see that this button, it doesn't show on 3 of 4, because we told using for each that hide it. It's there, but you can't click it. It's gone. You can't click it. It's not there. I'm only showing it. I'm only showing this guy only when if it's no longer 3, or if it's greater than 3, based on what we have here. So show info, if it's 3, well, because it's gonna increase, not greater, if it's 3, and then we're gonna tell this startup if it's visible to be true, and that's exactly what we see right here. Let me just move all the way here so we can see the app. So the grid row is 6, fill and expand, and expand. You see, fill and expand horizontally, but vertical options and then expand is the rest. Then we have if it's visible. Remember, this is for the entire stack layout, not just for the button, stack layout. And then we have the button inside, where we are binding the command using startup the command, and then text is agreed to terms of service, and then we are styling. Do you remember that static resource for buttons bottom, where I'm pushing it down there? That's what we see. So in a nutshell, this is the page, and then what happens when you click it, I'm glad you asked. So if I click it, yes, I read. Did I click it, or was I playing? Now I just clicked it. Now it's going to start up, triggering version updates. So now it's going to start up. While I close the Visual Studio to prepare for the next sessions tomorrow. Xamarin is everything. Xamarin it's a fun thing. So let me close the Visual Studio I'm not done. I want to show you. So this is the app, this is startup. We'll cover this at a later stage. But if I remove this from the background, remove this, then launch it again, it's gonna skip that terms of service feature because we did agree to terms of service. It skipped it. And now we know it's working, and this is how you test it. So with that being said, thank you very much. I hope this video provides some insight into Xamarin, particularly this feature that we're still busy with, which is the terms of service. So now we should mark this guy is done. And what it did also, they exposed a lot of things. We're gonna learn about commands, connectivity view, base view model. So I'll show this again, connectivity view from the terms of service. What happens when you're not connected to the internet? But we have to look at the base view model first, and we have to look into detailed commands. So this is gonna be quite interesting. So thank you very much until we meet again in our next video. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about the goodness of this YouTube channel, and then yeah, let's meet again on the next video. For now, I am out.